Some cars never really go away. Not the ones you sold, not the ones you wrecked, not the ones that slipped into someone else's life, the ones that stay with you. They live in a different place. Somewhere between memory and muscle. You'll be waiting at a light, or sliding into second, and suddenly you feel it. The exact weight of a wheel you haven't touched in years. The smell of an interior you thought you'd forgotten. It's not nostalgia, not exactly. It's more like a ghost. Not haunting you, just reminding you that part of who you are was shaped here, behind a wheel that's long since gone. You don't remember every detail. You don't need to. The feeling is enough, and it stays, quietly, no matter how many years or cars have passed. Some things stay in your hands longer than they stay in your life. The curve of a gear knob, the way the clutch used to catch, halfway down, every time. It's still there, hiding in muscle memory. Years later, you'll drive something different, in a place that's nothing like where you were, but your hands, your feet, they remember. Without thinking, you move as if that old car is still under you. You could forget the plate, the paint, even the year, but you'll never forget that second to third shift. On an empty road, it lingers, not in the facts, in the way your body learned to belong there. Some endings happen in silence. No farewell drive, no last photo in the driveway. One day it's there, the next day, it isn't. You tell yourself it's just a car, that you'll get another, but that's not what you're grieving. It's the suddenness, the unfinished conversation between you and a machine that somehow knew you, the way you still half expect to see it, waiting when you come home. We think we're the ones who leave cars behind, but sometimes they leave us, quietly, without warning, as if they knew it would hurt more if they stayed. Every car leaves you with something, not the bills, not the dents, the good ones, leave you with lessons, patience, from the mornings it refused to start, until you learned the rhythm of its moods, control, from the nights you slid on wet asphalt, and somehow stayed straight, trust, from the way it carried you through nights you shouldn't have been driving at all. It never said the words, but it taught you anyway. Every misfire, every stubborn bolt, every time the fuel light stayed on, just a little too long, it was showing you how to adapt, how to listen, how to belong. Now, in other cars, on other roads, you carry that understanding, not just about driving, about living. Every car you've driven since carries shadows of the one you lost. They hide in the curve of a dashboard, in the sound of a door closing, in the way the engine settles after a cold start. You're not looking for them, but they're there, quiet reminders that you've been here before. Different paint, different seats, different years. It's not about replacing what's gone. It's knowing pieces of it live on, stitched into everything you've driven since. Sometimes you wonder, is it the car that's haunting you, or are you the one carrying the ghost forward because you're not ready to let it go? It's strange how much of your life a car can hold, not in its trunk, but in the quiet spaces between the miles. It was there, the night you drove home in silence, trying to understand what had just ended. It was there, when you laughed so hard with friends, you almost missed your turn. It was there, on days you drove for no reason at all, just because the air felt different. A car doesn't know the details, it can't name the faces or places, but it feels the weight of your life. The music too loud, the tears at red lights, the long pauses before the key turned. Now when you remember those moments, you can't separate them from the car that carried you through. It's part of the story, even if it could never tell it back. The moment doesn't always hit right away. At first, you just drive something else, fill the space. Then one day, you reach for a switch that isn't there, or glance in a mirror that reflects a different shape. That's when the weight arrives. Quiet, certain, undeniable. You'll never sit in that seat again. You think about the smell, the way the wheel felt warm in late afternoon sun, the little sound it made over a certain stretch of road, and it's gone. Finality has a taste, and once you notice it, you can't spit it out. Some things don't fade. They might soften at the edges, but the shape stays. That car still lives in you, in the sound you know before you see it, in the way your hands rest on the wheel without thinking, in the part of you that slows down on certain roads, because it remembers. You can't erase it, even if you wanted to. It's etched into how you move through the world. That's the permanence of memory. It stops being something you look back on, and becomes something you carry forward. And maybe that's why it doesn't hurt as much anymore. Not because you've forgotten, but because you've learned to live with it. Because now, it's not just a memory, it's part of you. Somewhere, that car is still moving, different streets, different hands on the wheel, but the same heartbeat under the hood. You don't know who they are. You don't need to. In some small way, they're carrying a piece of you, without knowing it. Maybe they feel the same comfort in the seat. Maybe they notice the way it leans in the corners. Maybe they even wonder who came before them. Ownership doesn't end with a signature. Some cars never fully belong to one person. They're a thread, woven through different lives. And though you're not holding the keys anymore, you know it's still alive out there, still teaching, still remembering. Time moves on, the roads change, so do you. But some things remain, not as they were, but as part of you. That car isn't yours anymore. It hasn't been for years. And yet, on certain mornings, you feel it. In the way sunlight falls, or in the curve of a familiar turn. It's not about holding on. It's knowing some connections don't need to be present, to be real. The miles you shared are finished. The story you wrote together is complete. But the mark it left is still here, quiet, unshakable. You never really let go. Because some cars stay with you anyway.